Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry it's been so long since my last video. I moved back home for winter break and just lost a lot of time, so here I am, finally. And today I'm going to be reviewing The Way of Kings, which is by Brandon Sanderson, and it's the first book in the Stormlight Archive. This is my favorite book of all time. Disclosed, I am highly biased, but it's a good book. It's a really good book, so hopefully my biases won't impact that, but I hope that I can convince you to give this monster of a book a try. As always, I'm going to go over plot, character, and setting, as well as what little content there is. So I'm going to start on plot. As you can guess, this is kind of a long book, and as such, it has some interesting pacing. Famously, it starts with 3 prologues. So there's prelude, at the very, very beginning, there's a prologue, and then there's chapter 1, which is technically a prologue because it's not from the main character's viewpoint. So this book starts out really slowly, and for readers who are not used to long epic fantasies and aren't immediately bought in by, oh, it's a Brandon Sanderson book, or oh, I've heard this is a good book, this might be a little bit hard to get over. I honestly didn't have trouble getting through those prologues, getting through the beginning and the setup, partially because Brandon Sanderson's writing and world hooked me so well. I'm not exactly sure, though, what exactly differentiated The Way of Kings from other fantasy books I've read, because most of the time I stop before I make it through most of it. So, The Lord of the Rings, I stopped reading it before The Hobbits reached Bree, if you know about The Lord of the Rings and where that is. And I started up again, which was good. And the same thing has happened for many, many other fantasy series, but not The Way of Kings, the one with 3 prologues. I made it all the way through, first run, less than 2 weeks. So despite the pacing issue, depending on who you are, I guess it shouldn't be an issue. Going deeper into why there are 3 prologues and why the pacing is so slow, Brandon Sanderson doesn't waste this time. He uses it to establish first the setting and then the character. So, if you're at all familiar with the Stormlight Archive, you know that Roshar is one of the most unique worlds in fantasy. And if you don't, because, say, this is the first book and you're watching a review of it, then this is one of the most unique worlds I've ever read in fantasy. And that's one of the reasons why I loved it so much. One of the reasons why I kept reading past those first 3 monstrous prologues, kept reading through all of the 400,000 plus words that are in this book, because the world was so evocative and beautiful and cool. And he doesn't just use that time for the character, not for the characters, for the setting, sorry, it's late at night. He also uses it to establish the characters. So we do meet, at the end of those 3 prologues, we meet one of the main characters, and we meet the other characters very soon, and Brandon Sanderson uses that time to kind of show us the beginning states of all of these characters before the main thrust of the plot. Which leads me into the segment on character, which possibly, besides setting, is my favorite part of this book. So there are 3 main characters in this book, although there are many, many others. Kaladin, Dalinar, and Shallan. So the main character, I would say, is Kaladin, although the others have pretty big roles. Dalinar and Kaladin's plots kind of go together at some points. Shallan's tends to be more off to the side, although it is still important, especially for later books. So, especially in The Way of Kings, each of these plots kind of has different priorities, different stakes. So, in Kaladin's arc, Kaladin is one of the best characters. He's my favorite character in the Stormlight Archive, and in this book he struggles a lot with being a slave and being depressed and fighting to still have hope and figure out what he's going to do in the situation. And wow, I'm doing a terrible job explaining it, but it's a really beautiful story and you should go read it. Dalinar is this high prince who is growing disillusioned with the state of the world and the state of his country and what he's done with his life, and he's also beginning to get these strange visions which the religion sees as heretical because seeing the future is bad. And finally, there's Shallan. Well, I think I'll just let you figure out Shallan for yourself. She's kind of off to the side, but she's doing important scholar work, and she also has some secrets. Lots of secrets. The character arcs in The Way of Kings were beautifully done, beautifully woven in with the plot, beautifully woven into the climax. Yeah, just go read it. It's really an amazing book. Finally, I'm going to address the setting. So thinking back on it, I think that the setting was what dragged me through The Way of Kings by my neck, because the setting is just so evocative. And I have talked about this already in the video, so I'm not going to detail exactly, but I will talk a little bit more about the specifics. So one of the main defining features of Roshar, which is the planet and the continent that all of this takes place on, is that there are these ginormous hurricane-force storms called high storms that circle the planet or cross the continent once every few days, and they're so strong that they would wipe out soil if it were there, and all the plants and everything has to take shelter or get in a shell. And so it's just full of, all the flora and fauna has adapted to this. There's like crab things, and plants have little shells that they retract into, and even the people have had to like build cities in crevices so that they don't get their cities swept away by the high storms. So it was really interesting, and Brandon Sanderson does a great job building up to this beautiful description of the high storm. I won't reveal any more about it because it's a cool plot moment, but that was a really cool element. As far as content goes, this doesn't really have much of that. It is Brandon Sanderson, and he writes pretty clean stuff. It is an adult book. Kaladin undergoes depression and contemplates suicide, stuff like that. So there is that, but it's part of the theme, and parts of the themes are looking for hope when it's just seems like there's none, and doing the right thing even when it feels useless. And so it kind of got dark in places, not really compared to like, I think what counts as dark in fantasy now, but it does get there, and I think it's worth it. So that is my review of Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings, my favorite book of all time, first book in the Stormlight Archive. I think my intent was to convince you to read it. I think what I basically did was say it's an amazing book, go read it, it's an amazing book, go read it, rather than giving you good, compelling reasons, but I hope you will check this book out. It is one of my favorite books of all time. Alright, thank you for watching this video. I am not going to be able to post videos after this because my spring semester is coming up, and I just won't be able to juggle making videos as well as doing all of my school. Thank you so much though for watching these videos. It's been really fun to talk about books I love, and kind of enjoy sharing that with you guys. So thank you so much for watching.